We haven't had a new Star Wars movie since 2019, almost 6 years ago at this point. But if all these rumors are to be believed, that's gonna change. And it's gonna be weird. Especially these next two. Welcome to Star Wars Uplink, your place for everything Star Wars gaming, the TV shows, and the movies. Let's jump in.
Just you reconsider playing that message for him.
Star Wars is in this really weird holding place because they clearly want to do some new things when it comes to the movies, but they're still lost in terms of what Star Wars is in some very key ways. Star Wars is struggling right now to have this level of nostalgia with also trying to chase a level of relevance. It seems like they're trying to do in all the wrong ways. But before we talk about that specific topic, I want to jump in first and talk about the news that just broke today that Ryan Gosling is in talks to star in Shawn Levy's new Star Wars movie. And if the deal goes through, that movie would be the next to go into production, which is huge. We've had a lot of reporting about Disney and Star Wars and which movies they're moving forward with, what direction they're going. They're seeming to want to move forward in this way of having Rey as the focus and bringing in this new era of movies based around that universe that was set up in the sequels. We've had lots of different stories about this. This has changed over the course of a number of years, but over the past year, this is kind of the seeming focus that they want to draw on. Asterisk, they don't have any people attached to said movie. They don't have any, technically they have a director, but they don't have a story. They've lost 2 or 3 writers for said story. And it doesn't seem like they're any further along in telling that story. So clearly they're looking for other things to do. Mandalorian and Grogu movie, which we're going to talk about in a bit. Apparently it's already finished filming, and that will be moving forward as the first new Star Wars movie, which kind of makes sense of going from TV show to movie and making that transition. And now Shawn Levy's movie seems to be further along in production. So I think that's going to be the next one that happens. And if Ryan Gosling's in it, I'm intrigued.
I'm very intrigued. So, okay. So you say it'll be the next further along or whatever. Like it'll be the next one, I assume, after Mandalorian and Grogu. Because that one's already like
that will be the first one. That will come out. We will definitely see a trailer at Star Wars Celebration, would be my guess. And then in 2026, actually have it be the first movie to come back. So almost 7 years since the last Star Wars movie. The Mandalorian and Grogu is going to crack open that big container and either flop entirely because it's kind of terrible, or do gangbusters because it's a Mandalorian movie and people love The Mandalorian.
Right. So, Ryan Gosling comes on the scene, potentially, and now because of the interest in him, that makes this want to go faster? Like that's what's
apparently he's been
momentum?
In pre-production on this for a couple years. He's got a co-writer, Jonathan Tropper, who worked on films with Shawn Levy, like This Is Where I Leave You and The Atom Project, and he has apparently been working on a script for over a year. He was also producing the feature, which I think is interesting, a level of like connectedness that we haven't seen in a couple other things that we've seen around here, as well as Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm, of course. We don't have any details on what this story is about. It's been very tightly. The Hollywood Reporter says it's unclear when Levy's project is set. It is, however, unconnected to the so-called Skywalker saga and is going to be separate from that experience. So it will more than likely not be connected to the Rey movies and will not be connected necessarily to any of the through line that we've seen in movies. So think of this more of like a Solo or a Rogue One rather than a continuation of an existing story.
Right. So it's still an exploration piece.
Yeah.
This is still them just trying to see where they're fitting in the galaxy. There's this kind of, which is good. I think that's good. It's nice to see that they're still exploring. And hopefully we're seeing more of them like bear down on things. I also wonder if we don't have any information because they don't have anything yet, you know?
Mm-hmm. Looking and researching into this topic is very convoluted. There's not a whole lot of details in terms of what is real, what's not real. But sources close to the Gosling development says it's late in the game move for Levy's movie schedule. Apparently, he was going to direct a boy band movie set up at Paramount, which would have reunited him with Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. But apparently, Gosling's interest and involvement suddenly shifted the Star Wars project. If a deal makes, the project would continue and would be very quick. Will be, quote, Levy's next movie and also the next Star Wars movie to go into production, with cameras potentially rolling this fall.
Whoa.
So things would be progressing pretty quickly. It seems like Shawn Levy was, okay, we'll do this thing. But Ryan Gosling was like, yo, bro, I want in. And Ryan Gosling's very hot. So he is, his involvement in any project is going to be popular. His schedule being available, first and foremost, would be something that any director would love to get in on.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Lucasfilm is in this really weird holding pattern with Star Wars movies. So if they had all these things aligned, it could go very quickly.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially since they've been working on the script for a year.
Hopefully that's a good sign, like of having them work on the script, having them had some time to kind of digest this, and then Ryan Gosling be like, oh, that sounds interesting. Let me put my 2 cents in. Like, hopefully that's a good thing and not well, let me fix this, or, well, let me, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, Star Wars projects, especially movies, we haven't seen in a really long time, so who knows? And B, just the stuff that's come out recently, it's just like, okay, this is good. I mean, Skeleton Crew is kind of its own thing, but like we're still trying to find that momentum. We're still trying to find what is Star Wars now?
What's Star Wars after the Skywalker saga? What's Star Wars in this new era of filmmaking, especially one that has not had a Star Wars movie in quite some time. Mm-hmm. So there's all these different pieces that are coming around this Star Wars project that I think are quite unique. And I am honestly excited because we haven't seen anything. Shawn Levy is a very good director. He's honestly, I think safe director is kind of an insult, so I don't necessarily want to use that term, but he's consistently delivering, especially from like a Disney perspective where you have, I mean, he directed Deadpool and Wolverine. So like he's clearly shown to be a blockbuster director. And he's been involved in Stranger Things and some writing roles and directing roles. So he's consistent, he can deliver, and he's worked on a variety of large-scale projects in a way that I don't think they've had many other directors work in Star Wars. Mm-hmm. So I think that's quite fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully they can keep him.
Mm-hmm. The Shawn Levy movie is quite interesting. Going to be very fascinated to see what direction that takes and how it will actually progress, considering these are all reports, even though it comes from the Hollywood Reporter, and Hollywood Reporter, when they do report something, are quite accurate with it, and especially when it comes to Star Wars things, often them and I think it's Variety, I think it's those two that are typically fed information directly from Lucasfilm. When they don't necessarily want to officially announce something, they will feed it to these organizations and gauge reactions. So that'll be interesting. Moving onward, though, we talked about some interesting, weird things coming to Star Wars, and I think it is definitely going to come to play when we look at the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, which last Star Wars Celebration in London. Apparently, this was an idea that was put into play. This is something that they had talked about and spawned at that event, and because they had a team that had built up the Mandalorian TV shows and obviously the spinoffs, they clearly had a team ready to produce things, and they said, we can just do a Mandalorian movie. Mm-hmm. So it seems like they're adapting what would have been season 4 of The Mandalorian and trying to expand that piece. The details on this are honestly stupid. I'm not going to pull any punches here. it's going to revolve around a plot of Rotta the Hutt being kidnapped and the Mandalorian having kidnapped by the hooded bounty hunter Embo, who we see in the Clone Wars.
Okay.
Kind of a background character. He's in there quite a bit as one of the group of bounty hunters in the show. But we've seen Rotta the Hutt get kidnapped in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Here he is getting kidnapped again by a bounty hunter that we've seen in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And it is, according to Bespin Bulletin, is actually the main plot. So MandoVerse update said, personally speaking, this sounds more like a side plot in the film rather than the main one overall. Bespin Bulletin, who is very good with reporting, a friend of the podcast as well, says no, it is not. It is the main plot line, which honestly sucks.
Yeah.
Because one, they're utilizing a plot that we've already seen in Star Wars before. This is clearly a money grab through and through because they're adapting something that we've already seen before.
Yep.
They are utilizing characters in a galaxy set on something that is kind of just stock Star Wars in a way that just kind of feels icky. And honestly, it's so weird that Jeremy Allen White is also going to be playing Rotta the Hutt, which I don't have a problem with that piece. Buff Rotta the Hutt sounds weird, but Christian Harloff reports that the Mandalorian and Grogu villain will be the bounty hunter Embo, who appears in multiple Star Wars Clone Wars series episodes. Filoni voiced Embo in Star Wars Clone Wars and will reportedly return to do the same in the Mandalorian and Grogu. Harloff also believes the plot involves Din Djarin and Grogu being hired to rescue Rotta the Hutt, while Embo has been hired to kill Rotta.
Interesting. Okay, so...
Again, Dave Filoni just like fan casting himself again, and also just basically molding the MandoVerse time period into his own little sandbox in a way that just it doesn't flex any good storytelling muscles, and also just relies so heavily on what has been done in the past without really reinvesting it or making anything new.
Yeah, that's it. There's nothing new here. This is literally just copy paste Clone Wars. From an episode in a TV show, like from TV show to movie, like we're not, movies should be something new. Movies should be pushing the needle forward. Like we're supposed to be like getting something interesting here. Like I thought we were going to be tackling Thrawn, doing something more like that. Like what was all of Ahsoka about? If not to kind of, I don't know, maybe the universe is supposed to be small in Star Wars, but I don't know.
Honestly, it's getting too small at this point, especially in this time period, especially in a time period that is so far removed from the Clone Wars. And this should not, like, they're treating the MandoVerse time period like it is just quickly following up the Clone Wars time period when it does not do that. In between, you have the Clone Wars, you have the Revenge of the Sith, you have Star Wars Rebels, then you have Rogue One, then you have the original trilogy.
Oh my gosh.
And then you have the MandoVerse time period, which takes place 5 years after the original trilogy ends. So you have a time period that is 20, 30 years maybe removed from the Clone Wars. Meanwhile, they're just plucking every single freaking character from the Clone Wars into the MandoVerse time period because goodness forbid they make any new characters or have any new plot ideas.
Yeah, come on, guys.
Why do something new where you can just plop something from the Clone Wars? Obviously, I think Dave Filoni is the master of filler episodes. Often people
episodes, not movies. Episodes. Why are we doing this in a movie?
Why is the first Star Wars movie in 7 years going to be a movie with the Mandalorian and Grogu, with the filler plot line of Rotta the Hutt has been kidnapped again, and he is now hired and also working with Zeb as part of the New Republic to get Rotta the Hutt again. I just do not understand it. A lot of people have been theorizing that this could be a connective piece that, okay, yes, they're going to have this idea and then it's going to set up something else. But that is like the definition of filler that is just ridiculous. Why would you set up a storyline that's going to set up another storyline in a movie that is taking the place of something that has not happened in 7 years.
Oof, it hurts. That hurts deep.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I honestly have no hopes for this movie the more I've heard about it. And like, I already have problems with how Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have been running the MandoVerse time period, because they are so afraid of doing anything outside of the box. Like they found something and then they quickly corrupted that thing. Mandalorian season 1 and 2 were fantastic, and they did something quite interesting. Season 2, probably the last half, especially the Ahsoka stuff, was kind of like cool, didn't make sense for the time period. And then Mandalorian season 3 was just garbage because they just tried to pump everything into that season.
Yeah, without doing anything.
And the Book of Boba Fett was kind of like a half step into a direction that could have been interesting, but they threw away all the character development. I have problems with how they're running that specific area, and it seems like this blockbuster movie is just going to multiply those problems that I have, which is unfortunate.
It's just a downright shame, honestly. I had actually foolishly expected more of this movie. Just hearing that makes my heart hurt a little bit, because like I really wanted this to be the punch for like a revitalization for Mandalorian, because like the last season was rough. So I was really hoping that this would give it a new spin, give it like a kind of a fresh start to just get us excited about Mandalorian again. But it sounds like maybe it's not. Maybe they're just doing the same thing. Maybe it was one of those things where it was like all the pressure was put on Mandalorian, so they're like, you know what, we're just going to do what we know what works.
Yeah.
Which is really too bad. I think it'll still be a good fun time. I think we'll just all be like, cool, we've seen this before, but okay, we got to see it in a shiny armored dude do it this time. Like,
yeah, it's such a shame. They have an opportunity to do something really interesting, but the more we hear about it, the more likely it is just going to be the same, but on a movie screen, which is a shame.
Yeah.
Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about Ryan Gosling entering the Star Wars universe? And what do you think about this Mandalorian and Grogu movie news? Let us know in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube, or contact uplinkpodcast.com if you're listening to this wherever you find podcasts. As always, thank you for listening. May the Force be with you.